Hello, all you wonderful readers. Welcome back to Shelf Check, brought to you by the Carolina Manga Library. This month's episode was a long time coming, but we are very happy to finally be presenting Fine, We'll Talk About Isekai. This was suggested by one of our patrons on Discord, Darth Newless. We're always looking for new folks to join our Discord, so hop over onto our website, www.carolinamangalibrary.com, for our link. You can also join our Patreon to get into the special recommendation channels of our Discord. But more on that later. This month, I'm going to be suggesting 11 different isekai titles from throughout the years that I personally enjoyed. And guys, this was a hard list because I generally can't stand isekai titles. There may be a few repeats from former podcasts, so I'll speed through those and let you know which episode to go listen to for more details. As usual, we're going to be recommending several graphic novels from different genres and tell you why they are amazing. As a reminder, we are only recommending series that are available officially in the US, either digitally or physically. Today's episode is brought to you by our wonderful patrons. Special thanks goes out to our honorary librarians, Chaos-chan and Sean Vahek, and our library assistant, DB Explorer. Stay until the end of the broadcast to learn more about our Patreon. So with all that out of the way, let's get reading about some isekai. Let's start off with an easy one. Let's start off with one that as soon as it came out, my inbox was absolutely bombarded with every single person I know telling me, oh my god, you have to read this. Oh my god, you have to watch this. Oh my god, what do you think of this? Let's talk about Ascendance of a Bookworm. Now, to be honest, there are parts of this series that I really don't care for. I can't stand the main character. It's about a lady who is obsessed with books, and she literally is killed by a pile of books falling on her head and killing her. And she wakes up in this fantasy world as like a 6-year-old girl, and there's no books in this world. They don't have the ability to make paper and to have books, so she's slowly going crazy. But then she realizes that she knows everything about everything she ever read from the real world, and she thinks, okay, fine, I'm going to improve this world and show them how to make paper so that I can read books again, because, you know, paper will exist, people will write stuff down, and I get to read books. That's her entire reason for being in the beginning. And, I mean, that's a pretty interesting premise. It's kind of funny when you think about it. But my problem with it is that the main character never... She acts too much like an adult, and she's constantly getting called out for it. And people are trying to figure out, you know, why is she like this? Is she a demon? Is she, you know, a heavenly being? Why is this 6-year-old suddenly so smart when it could barely string sentences together last week? So it's a weird story, but I kind of found myself falling in love with the rest of the characters. Her little best friend / love interest is this just completely earnest little cinnamon roll that I just adore. Her family loves her so much that they don't care that she's weird now and she talks about strange things that nobody's ever heard of. They just love her because she's like their daughter and she's part of their family, even to the point where they go up against like the main religion of this world, like makes her into one of their acolytes. And there's one point where like the big bad religious guy is like, okay, she's gonna arrest her now because she's obviously a demon. And her dad like steps up and says, no, we're gonna throw down if you touch my daughter. And I just love that aspect. It's also really fun to listen to her like negotiating with people and her kind of teaching them about other things. It's like one of those stories where, you know, you get sent to another world, but you have like a step above everybody else because you have this regular knowledge from the regular world. And normally I just can't stand that trope, which is why I don't normally like those kinds of stories in isekai. But like I said, the world in this one and the side characters really sold it for me. So definitely either watch it or read the manga or read the original light novels. I enjoyed all three. So yeah, Ascendance of a Bookworm seems like a pretty smart one for us to start off with, doesn't it? So I am so happy that I decided to do this particular month of recommendations because I get to tell you about my favorite isekai of all time. Now, this is from back in the day when isekai didn't have a definitive genre yet. Even the term isekai wasn't used to describe this particular trope. It was just the trope of person gets blasted to another world. And it was specifically, almost exclusively, a shoujo term. It was a shoujo trope, so it was a lot of romance and a lot of things like that. And of course, that was, as some of you know, romance is my bread and butter. So I'm so excited to be able to tell you about From Far Away. This series is about a young lady who gets blasted in an explosion, and when she wakes up, she's in this huge forest, this fantasy world, and there's monsters all over the place, and she gets saved by a hot dude with long dark hair, and they hit it off right away, and he's like saving her like a baby bird, but of course he's got a tragic backstory, and he's supposed to actually kill her, and he can't do it because she's just so wide-eyed and innocent and cute. And I mean, that sounds very typical and tropey, right? It sounds like something that you've read a million times. But it's got a couple of really smart decisions. One of which is, for about the first 3 books, this girl cannot speak the language of this world. So she literally can't speak to anybody or understand anything anybody's saying. So part of the story is her actually learning the language that she can now use to communicate. And it leads to some really fun hijinks and misunderstandings, like, learning any new language and being stuck in it, like immersive learning. You're going to make mistakes, and it leads to some really great comedy. But the main character is one of those great, like, pull her up by her own bootstraps kind of girls. Our male protagonist has a wonderful tortured past that you have to kind of ease into through the whole story. The action scenes, the fight scenes in this are so stinking good, and the romance is so genuine that you just want these 2 little idiots to be happy. And I just love this series so much. I love it so much that I've read this series so many times that I can actually quote parts of it. And I do. There's even a phrase that my husband and I use every once in a while, like when he makes a big, like whenever he gets upset about something and I don't know why, I'll quote a line from this manga. So it is out of print. You will have a difficult time finding it, unfortunately. It is an old Viz title. It's an old Shoujo Beat title. But if you can find it, it is so worth it. I'm really hoping it gets rescued from licensing hell and is put out in omnibus form. It's only 14 books long, and it's so, so good. So yeah, From Far Away, best isekai I've ever read. So this next one I'm going to go over very, very briefly because I talked about it in episode 6 of the podcast, and I'm going to tell you about Savior's Book Cafe. Extremely briefly, if you haven't seen episode 6, a lady is approached by God, and God asks her to come save his fantasy world from the last person that he brought to his world because she's a fluff-haired, pink-haired idiot who doesn't know how to do anything, and she's kind of destroying everything. And the twist is that the woman that it brings to the fantasy world is an adult. She's like in her 30s, and she was on her way home from work and just wants to go home and have her convenience store dinner and watch soap operas. But instead she has to go be a fantasy person. And after she saves the fantasy world in like chapter 2, she just opens up a book cafe, and it's this completely adorable little romance. And I love stories like this because it's the kind of stupid idea where, like, if I ever got isekai'd, this is probably exactly what I would do. I would save your stupid world by using logic and basic adult, conversations, and then I would just go do whatever the heck I want. So, kind of a quick recommendation, but yeah, definitely need to go check out Savior's Book Cafe in Another World. It's only 5 books long. It'll take you all of an hour to read it, and you'll love every minute of it. So the entire genre of isekai has never been one of my favorite ideas, mostly because a lot of the times it's just the same story with like one gimmick that's different. And a lot of the modern isekai are a lot of, it's funny, the genre has moved from shoujo, which I mean was tropey as heck back in the 90s and the early 2000s. Girl gets blasted into another world, finds completely cool hot dude, they fall in love, some kind of hijinks ensue. And nowadays it's mostly gone to kind of male fantasies almost, where the completely normal dude gets blasted into the world where he's suddenly like OP and he has all these girlfriends and there's like 15 love interests and it's mostly harem. And I know I'm not saying that all isekai are like that, but the ones that get predominantly popular are a lot like that. But then every once in a while you get one that's a reverse isekai, and it's an interesting idea where somebody from a fantasy world ends up in our world. And that's really, really, really funny and interesting. So this one I'm going to tell you guys about is probably the quintessential example of this, and that's Devil is a Part-Timer. And it's so fun. It's a story about this great demon king that's in the middle of this huge holy war in his fantasy world, and the great hero manages to banish him to another world to save her army. And the other world that he gets sent to is literally modern day Tokyo. And so he's a demon king and he's stuck in our world and he's trying to cope. It's him and his like best general and other random demons that also got caught up in this crossfire. But he decides that he's gonna take over our world, one basket of fries at a time, and he works at what is essentially McDonald's. And just the whole idea is so stupid and so funny. And the characters are genuinely just entertaining to read. I love Demon King Mao so much because he's so focused on this idea that he is going to take over the world and he's going to do it by working at McDonald's and working his way up the chain of command of McDonald's because McDonald's controls everything. And it's so funny and it's so stupid. And I can't think of another series that takes this genre trope and spins it on its head as much as Devil is a Part-Timer does. All the characters are really genuine. The human girl that's in love with him is drop deadly funnily stupid. I love her so much. She's such a little moron. And then of course the hero gets blasted to our world too, and he's got to deal with that. And it's so funny. And it was one of the ones I watched the anime first, and then I read the light novels, and then I finally read the manga adaptation. The manga adaptation is not like the best manga of all time, and if I hadn't seen the other adaptations first, then I probably wouldn't have liked it as much. I wouldn't have really understood it, but being able to experience all three versions of this is just a fantastic part of my reading career that I look back at and I smile all the time. So definitely try out some version of Devil is a Part-Timer. So our next one is another example of a really old isekai, probably the first isekai that I really read. Again, before isekai had a term, and this is another shoujo, but this was probably the most adult isekai that I've ever read. And I'm going to tell you today about an old classic called Fushigi Yugi. And it's a story about two girls who find this magical book in their library, and they get sucked into the world of the book, and they're both destined to become these high priestesses of these different goddesses. And if you gather the celestial warriors for each goddess and you summon the goddess, you get to make a wish. And one of the girls, our main character, is happy-go-lucky little cute thing, falls in love with one of the celestial warriors, is best friends with all of them, and just wants everyone to be happy, and she wants to be happy with her boyfriend. The other one has a really traumatic trip through the book. She gets assaulted, and she gets hurt, and she gets rescued by one of her celestial warriors, and now she's up against her former best friend. And it's one of those really great twisty stories where everything that you think is going to happen is not going to happen. It's going to happen in a different way. And it's fun because it's also, like, I thought it was a harem going into it because all the celestial warriors are dudes, and our main character, Miyaka, is, of course, female. And it's really, really funny because none of them, there's only two that love her as a woman. The rest of them, just like, she's their really good friend, she's their, their confidant, things like that. So it didn't turn into the biggest love triangle ever, which of course was the bread and butter of shoujo in the 90s and early 2000s. But Fushigi Yugi, it's a lot to digest. It's one of those deep fantasy stories that will really suck you into the story and into the world and into the mythology and religion of this world. It's not something that I would recommend to a teenage girl. There's nothing objectionable in it at all, but reading it again as I got older, I got to see and I got to experience a lot more of the background of the story and the real meat of the story outside of the girl finds hot dude to fall in love with in a fantasy world kind of idea. So Fushigi Yugi, it just came back out. No, it didn't come back out. I'm hoping that it comes back out, but I know you can read it on the Viz app for with their subscription. But it's definitely worth trying. The anime is phenomenal, especially for being back in the day. And the author, Yu Watase, is one of those authors that really pushed boundaries of what shoujo manga could be. And she didn't stay within the lanes. And I love it when authors have the courage to do that. So definitely go try out Fushigi Yugi if you like fantasy with a lot more adult themes than you would think of. Okay, this one is to prove that I do read modern isekai. I promise. I am reading some modern things. I'm not just going to relive my glory days of the old school. So I'm going to tell you about Rising of the Shield Hero. And this was one of the first modern isekai where I liked it. Dude gets summoned to another world only to find out that he's one of these destined, like one of like 4 or 5 destined warriors, and he's supposed to be having this magical shield, but like everybody hates him. Everybody in this world absolutely hates him. He's supposed to be like the villain almost, and he like caused all this controversy before. So like all the other warriors get like parades and accolades and all these great things whenever they do anything, and he's just like bottom of the barrel weaponry. Nobody ever helps him. He's thrown in jail a couple times. I haven't read the entire series, but I read enough of it where I can recommend it to folks that are getting into isekai. I liked the twist that nobody liked him. I liked the twist that he just kind of hates everything. And it's fun not to have a peppy shonen protagonist where, everything, nothing will faze him. He just gets through it all with his gumption, and it's not like that. This guy, he's like that emo high schooler that you knew where like everyone hates me and I have a tragic backstory and no matter what I do, everyone's going to hate me. So I'm just going to lean into that, and that's going to be my entire personality. And I just really enjoyed that because it was different than everything else I was reading. Now, to be fair, the shtick of everybody hating him, no matter how many times he saves the world, gets real old after a little while. And then there's this whole skeezy thing where he keeps collecting young women, and they get younger and younger. And there's that stupid trope of there's a girl who looks like she's like 11 years old, but she's like this super ancient being, so it's okay that she's trying to get with him. And it does hit all of my buttons later on of what really turns me off of modern isekai. But I really, really, really enjoyed probably the first 6 or 7 books of the series, and that's a lot to like before it goes into the, hits all my trigger buttons. But Rising of the Shield Hero surprised me, and I'm glad I read it, and I'm glad that I experienced the story at least once. I'm probably never going to read it again, but I at least enjoyed it enough to talk about it here. So this next one, this is the quintessential one isekai that everybody who is over the age of 30 knows this manga and they know this anime. We're going to talk about Magic Knight Rayearth. It's a clamp series, which means it is drawn absolutely gorgeously. Quintessential 90s look that you can see the people's eyes through their hair. Their hair is long and flowy. All the designs are very flowy. It's a story about 3 girls who randomly meet during field trips from their different schools, and as they kind of lock eyes across Tokyo Tower, they hear a voice from nowhere saying that they are chosen to be magical knights and they have to come to this other world to save this princess. And the next thing they know, they're falling through the sky above this beautiful island, and they're caught by a giant flying fish and this completely adorable little tiny chibi mage dude named Clef. And they have to train to become magical knights, which means they have to master, of course, wizardry and sorcery and sword fighting, and they have to pilot their giant beast. So yes, they pilot giant mecha. So this is a mecha magic isekai, and it's one of the quintessential titles. When I think of isekai, it's one of the titles that I've always thought of when I'm like, okay, so what's a good isekai? Oh, it's Magic Knight Rayearth, of course. The series is really, really good. It's got a fantastic twist ending to the first half. It'll leave you probably throwing the book across the room and probably sending me a nasty email saying, why'd you make me read this? It's really fun. So it's divided into 2 different parts. Part 1 is them trying to save the princess, and then part 2 is them trying to save the world. So they actually get isekai twice. There's a small time jump in the middle, maybe like a year or so, and they get isekai'd again back to the same world, and that's really unique on its own. But the characters are super genuine, the art is phenomenal, the storyline is phenomenal. I love all of their secondary characters. Everyone's really unique and has really great character arcs. The giant mecha were the biggest surprise. I'm like, oh my god, that's a giant dragon mecha. This is the greatest thing I've ever read in my life. And they're just three huge giant dragons, and they're so interesting and they're so drawn well. And I love this series. I was very, very lucky at a convention recently. I found somebody selling these like really pretty hardcover version copies of these books. I jumped all over those so fast. One of my volunteers actually saw them for me in the convention center, in the hall, in the vendor hall while I was working in the library. And they called me and they said, Laura, I found it. And literally, I looked at my second in command and I threw my credit card and I said, go. So they actually ran down there to buy them for me. They're so pretty. So if you like your high fantasy isekai with actual level building, which is nice, and skill building, with really interesting characters and some really fun 90s tropes and comedy, you really need to go read Magic Knight Rayearth. And then you can watch the anime. Season 1 is almost word for word the same thing. Season 2 comes out of a complete left field. Is very different, but the music's really pretty. And then you could always watch the OVA, which was kind of condensing the storyline down into one movie, which it worked because they took their own twist on it, and it's still really, really pretty. So yeah, Magic Knight Rayearth, gotta love it. Some really interesting things to come out of modern isekai is the idea that it's now normal for someone to get sucked into a video game. In the old isekai genre, back when it was still shonen shoujo, there was one standout being a shonen product, and that was Dot Hack. And that was the one that really originated the idea of, you know, kids get sucked into a video game and they have to live in the video game and survive the video game. Nowadays, after the insane popularity of Sword Art Online, which, don't throw anything at me, guys, I didn't care for it. I actually liked the author's other series better, Excel World. But now that it's become kind of commonplace, again, you get the same problems that you get with other isekai tropes and the other isekai titles. It's the same stupid storyline. But one that really struck me recently is one called Quality Assurance in Another World. And I think I liked it because it's a little more drastic. It plays the gambit. Instead of one person getting stuck in the video game, it's a bunch of people. So the story starts off with this guy who is visiting this village and he's studying these local, flora and fauna. And all of a sudden dragons attack. And he and the villagers fend off the dragons and they saves the village. Everything is great. And he makes friends with this one little girl in the village. And the dragons get, sent off and she's celebrating. And she says, oh, Mr. Adventurer, this is great. This is great. We did it. We saved our village. And he turns around and he's crying. And he looks at her and he says, I'm so sorry. I can't fix it. I've tried. He said, I've saved your village over 100 times and every single time it ends up the same way. And she says, what are you talking about? And then she bursts into flames. And everyone in her village bursts into flames and they all die. And that's when it's revealed that he's stuck in a video game. So the premise is that he and a bunch of other people were alpha testers for this game. And they're they're supposed to go into the game and play it and find all the bugs in it so they can report the bugs and it can get fixed. So what happened is that was a year ago. And they've been stuck. They cannot get out of the game. So he's still doing his job, reporting bugs to the sentient AI in the sky, whereas his other debuggers pretty much went a little human crazy, and they decided to use all of their basically admin powers to hack the game and live like kings and queens. Some of them actually clipped through walls and now they exist in the wall, like they're trapped in the wall somewhere. One clipped through the map and is just falling forever. One has taken over one of the big kingdoms and he's screwing every female character he can find and, torturing and killing everybody else in horribly grotesque ways that he can't do when he's, an actual human. And it just the idea that there are so many people who react to being stuck in the game in different ways is actually pretty fascinating. Especially because it's not that we meet a bunch of them like later on in the game or later on in the manga. They're there like almost right away. We meet a bunch of the bad people like within like chapter 2. So it's not that we just keep finding new characters that are bad people. They're just already there. And it's just an interesting little twist of, how do people react to this specific kind of stressor. So I really, really, really enjoyed Quality Assurance in Another World. I kind of wish it got an anime because some of the fight scenes would be really cool animated, but it's very some of the scenes are about as shocking as the first 2 pages of Goblin Slayer, and all the Goblin Slayer spin-offs. They all start off with the same like stupid 2 pages in the beginning, where it's just a vile hentai rape scene. It's just horrible. But it never goes that hard, but it goes hard enough to be like, oh my god. So if you saw it animated, you'd just be completely turned off. So yeah, Quality Assurance in Another World. Give it a shot. I was very surprised that I liked it so much. All right, everybody, get ready. Check it off your bingo cards. We have to talk about Inuyasha. We just have to. It's one of those things that if you didn't like Inuyasha growing up in the 90s and 2000s, then you were not an anime fan. Even if you didn't like certain parts of it, we all watched it. We watched every single stinking episode on Toonami when it came on. There's no way around it, okay? We all watched or read Inuyasha, and I did both, because of course I did. See, I'm a huge fan of Rumiko Takahashi, the author. I literally have read everything that she's ever published. I'm very proud that in the manga library we have just about everything she's ever published in English. I just love her writing style. She's so funny and so stupid, and she's great. And Inuyasha was the first one that really catapulted her into popularity in the United States. She was already a big deal in Japan, but the Inuyasha anime, when it hit Toonami, it was just like Sailor Moon. We didn't have anything like Inuyasha, okay, when it hit Toonami. It was a love story. It was a love triangle. It had a really cute protagonist guy. He was a furry before any of us really knew what a furry was. It had great fight scenes. It had great comedy. Everything about it was just exactly what our poor little demented brains needed when we were 13 years old. So if you haven't read or watched Inuyasha, extremely briefly, there's a girl named Kagome, and she lives in her family's house is a temple, and there's this big tree where they said it's got like a bear spot on it, and they said there was a demon imprisoned here, and we keep the shrine going so that the demon can always be appeased. And she falls into this well on the property, and she wakes up. She travels through time, basically, and she goes back to like ancient Japan. But here's the thing, it's not really ancient Japan, which is why I don't classify this as time travel. They say that she's going back in time. She's just going to a demon realm, okay? I don't care what anybody else says. It's just being transported to another world, okay? It just is. It's not like she meets like one historical figure, Nobuo Otonaga, but he's like not the person that's actually there. That was actually the real person. He's just like a comic relief character who happens to look like the guy she has a crush on back in the real world. So it has absolutely none of the history for time travel stuff. It's just they just say that it's ancient Japan when demons ruled everything. Like no. It's the demon realm. So she goes there to the demon realm, and she finds this dude with dog ears pinned to a tree with a sacred arrow, and she pulls the arrow out because there's this big thing chasing her, and she's drawn to the dog dude. She pulls out the arrow, and he comes back to life, and they break this magical jewel into like 1,000 shards, and now they have to go find all the demons that have the shards and bring the jewel back together so that she can like go home. Of course, she goes home like 16 times during the series, but that was the initial idea, is if she remade the jewel, then she could go home. It's the kind of series, it's like 60 something books long, I think. I'd have to look it up, but I honestly couldn't tell you how many stinking volumes it is, but it's a lot. It went on for quite a long time. It was one of those, it was like Dragon Ball. It was one of those series that the producers were like, oh my god, no, keep making more of this. It's very popular. It's something that we can just do forever. 56, I think, volumes? Yes, 56 volumes. Thank you, Wikipedia. 56 volumes this darn series went on. And it's so good. Yes, it meanders halfway through when they're fighting this one specific bad guy for like 50 stinking books. They're trying to track this guy down. And it does get a little tedious, and her writing does get a little repetitive. But especially like the first 15 to 20 books, you can read those and be happy. Honestly, you can read the first 20 books and then never read the rest of it, except like go read like the last volume just to see how it all ends. But if you get sucked into the world and you get sucked into the characters like I did, it's a fun little ride. So give the Inuyasha anime or the manga or both a shot. You'd be surprised. It's popular for a reason. All right. So, this one is so brand new that it just got delivered this morning as I was recording this. It got delivered and I wanted to read it and I sat down and I read it. And I didn't move for 22 minutes while I finished reading this first volume of this series. This is called Sister and Giant, and it's new to me. I think it just came out though. It's an isekai story about a girl who she and her like best friend slash lover slash assault person they killed themselves, and they woke up in this other world and they're separated. They don't know where each other are. But our main character is like she had a bond of she vowed a bond of sisterhood with this giant girl, literally a giant. And she said, "I'm your older sister now. We're gonna take care of each other. We're gonna find our lost families because they both are missing family members, or this other girl she's attached to." But the twist of this one that makes it interesting and made me keep reading the darn thing is that the isekai world is aware that people keep getting reincarnated into their world. And every time someone gets reincarnated, they get what they call a cheat gift. Or they call it a gift. The people that don't like it they call it a cheat. So they've got some kind of fantastical power when you get reincarnated, and they can do all kinds of fun stuff. So a lot of people don't like these reincarnated people with godlike powers. I don't know why people are getting reincarnated in this world yet. I'm very interested to find out. But it's a very visceral series. It's got some really great bloody fight scenes. It's got some great questionable adult content. The art style is really cool. I'm very engaged as to why these people keep getting reincarnated into this world and what their overall purpose is. The giant girl is just absolutely adorable. She's like this really, really great fighter, but she's also like completely adorably in love with this little tiny person that calls herself her sister. And like the regular girl is like known as like the shortest giant, and it's so cute. It's cute without being cutesy. It's fun without being stupid. It's actiony without being gratuitous. And I really, really enjoyed it. Sister and Giant. I'm gonna have to go read the rest of it. I really, really am. Give it a shot, guys. It's something new. Order it now and read it so that they'll order more of it. All right, so the last one I have for you, I actually debated whether or not I was going to put it on this list. Because it's not really an isekai. It is by the definition of the word. It's, one person sent from one reality to another reality. But this one is almost purely time travel. It's called Red River. And if you have had the chance to read this before, guess what? It got rescued from licensing hell and it's coming out again in October in omnibus editions. I'm so excited. So this girl from modern day Japan gets pulled into the past, into ancient Mesopotamia. I'm talking when Egypt still ruled the world type ancient Mesopotamia. Okay? And she gets pulled back into the past. There is a little bit of magic. She's pulled back by a priestess so she can get sacrificed. But the prince, like the third in line to the throne, says, no, you can't kill her. She's going to be, my avatar, my goddess's avatar here in Mesopotamia. And then, of course, they fall in love. But the entire story is telling a lot of the actual history of Mesopotamia. A lot of the wars that they fought, a lot of the people that they came in contact with. Our main character is one of those. She's not plucky, like annoyingly plucky. She's just very determined, and I like that. She doesn't have a lot of those shoujo protagonist tropes where she like screams whenever she sees danger or anything like that. She's very much like, no, get the hell out of my way. I just want to go home. Okay? I'll do what I have to go home, but I want to go home. Also, you people are idiots, and here's how you do things logically. Instead of, praying to your gods, let's just actually apply a little bit of logic to your brains. So it's a really, really, really great series. And like I said, it's not an isekai strictly speaking, because it's not a different world that she gets sent to. It's ancient Mesopotamia with like the tiniest bit of magic thrown in. Like it's so funny. Every time something magical happens, it's like once every 6 books out of like a 24 book series. And it's like I blink, I'm like, wait, why is there magic? Oh, that's right, there's magic in this world. That's how little it actually features in the story. It's much more a geopolitical power struggle between Mesopotamia and its surrounding countries. It actually has people from actual history. It's got Ramses. It's got his sister Nefertiti. It's got the actual kings of Mesopotamia and their bloodline. You deal with cultural problems. You deal with historical battles. And it's just so good. If you like historical romance, this is your absolute manga bread and butter, y'all. Okay? It's one of those fantastic stories that's told, and every time I read it, I go back and I actually start researching ancient Mesopotamia again. Every time I do, I find something new about it. It's really cool. So yeah, this is my honorable mention. Again, it's not like Inuyasha where it's like a ton of demons and stuff. No, there's literally like 2 people have magic. That's it. Literally 2 people have magic in the entire series, and it's like little bitty teeny little things. Like one can ever so slightly control water, and one can ever so slightly control wind. That's it. Okay? It doesn't feature in the story. It's not part of the storyline. This is a time travel / isekai. Red River is so worth it. Go buy it. You will thank me later. Okay. So, we got through 11 isekai. Oh my goodness. As a special note, yes, I promise I will read more isekai titles. Go ahead and, like I said, recommend them to me on the Discord. Find me at a convention. Send me an email with a list of stuff that I should go read. Just keep in mind that I'm very, very picky. So this episode was actually supposed to be our big 10th episode, but it took me so long to do it, which is why last month you got another one of our live recordings as episode 10, but you can count this one as episode 10, the big one. So I really hope you enjoyed it. I probably won't be doing this again for another year, and maybe for episode 20, I'll come up with another one with like 11 or 10 recommendations. But we'll be back to our regular scheduled programming next month. So we don't have that many announcements for this month. We do have our next appearance our last appearance for the summer officially will be MetroCon, which is in Tampa, Florida. And that is actually 4th of July weekend. We will be down there set up with the whole manga library. We can't wait to see you guys again. We love MetroCon. Everybody's so nice. And our room is beautiful. It overlooks the bay, Tampa Bay. And the crowd is always really, really fun. And you guys just really seem to like our library down there in Florida. So we really, really enjoy coming to it. We have some more events coming up later on in the fall. We're going to take our fall and summer break here after July. Our next appearance after that with the whole library will not be until October. And we'll have some announcements on that in further podcast episodes. But for now, we're just coming to MetroCon, coming down to Tampa. We'll be accepting donations as always. We'll have our prize wheel. We'll have the whole library. And I will be there in my sparkly dresses, ready to addict you to some new manga. So welcome to the Q&A portion of our podcast for this month. If you don't know what this is, every month I choose a couple of questions that are asked from basically an Ask Me Anything on our Discord called Ask a Librarian, and I take 1 or 2 questions and I give you funny answers and honest answers to what I actually think about them. If you're interested in joining our Discord, the link is on our website, www.carolinamangalibrary.com. And if you're a patron, you actually get a chance of making sure that your question gets read every month. So this question we have this month is, which of your favorite isekai worlds would you say no thank you to living in that world? I would not want to live in the Rising of the Shield Hero world. Okay, I just would not. Everybody's mean. Like everybody, except for like the 3 people that the main character tries to sleep with. Like everybody else is just a horrible person. They're just mean-spirited, and they listen too much to gossip, and the world itself isn't that interesting. So yeah, I really wouldn't want to live in Rising of the Shield Hero. I would absolutely, hands down, prefer to go live in like the Imaginary Rayearth world or the Savior in a Book Café world. Oh god, I would love to live there. Also wouldn't mind living in from far away because of different cultures and different peoples, and the monsters are really cool. But definitely would not want to live in the Rising of the Shield Hero world. Thanks for joining us on this month's episode of Shelf Check, brought to you by the Carolina Manga Library. This episode was written and recorded by the Carolina Manga Library staff and edited by NoodleBoyMedia. You can find information about NoodleBoyMedia on all social networking sites. We'll be back next month with Masters Lesser Known Titles, recommendations of less popular titles by popular and legendary creators. Remember, if you're interested in supporting the library, consider becoming a patron. Our patrons get access to the podcast a day early, as well as behind-the-scenes fun like bloopers and transcripts. We're also on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and you can find links to all of this on our website, www.carolinamangalibrary.com. So until next month, we'll see you in the stacks.